There comes a moment when you realize the person you've been can't take you to the life you desire. That moment is the spark. The old you, comfortable, predictable, familiar, stands as the greatest barrier to your future. To rise, you must release it. Identity is the quiet force that shapes every choice, every habit, and every outcome you experience. From childhood onward, you begin building a picture of who you think you are, an internal story made of memories, lessons, successes, and disappointments. Over time, this story solidifies into what feels like an unchangeable truth. You start to believe that your personality, your talents, and even your limits are fixed, but growth and true success require a radical understanding. The person you believe yourself to be today is only a temporary construction. If you want to reach a higher level in any area of life, that construction must be dismantled and rebuilt. Consider how powerful this self-pigeon really is. When you secretly believe you are someone who always struggles with money, you unconsciously make choices that keep you in financial stress, hesitating to invest in skills, avoiding risks, or undervaluing your work. If you see yourself as someone who just isn't athletic, you may never test your body's ability to get stronger or faster. Identity quietly dictates what you attempt and what you avoid. The ceiling you feel pressing down on you is rarely the world's limitation, it is the reflection of your own self-concept. This is why an identity shift is not a small adjustment, it is the foundation of transformation. You cannot simply set bigger goals while clinging to the same inner story. Imagine trying to install advanced software on a decades-old operating system. No matter how good the program is, the old system can't handle it. In the same way, new habits, new opportunities, and new levels of responsibility require a new mental framework to run smoothly. Shifting identity begins with awareness. You have to notice the internal narrative you repeat each day. Pay attention to the words you use when you describe yourself to others, or even when you talk to yourself in silence. Phrases like, "I'm not good with technology, I always procrastinate," or "I'm shy around strangers," might sound harmless, but they are powerful commands that keep you anchored to a previous version of yourself. The more you speak them, the more you reinforce the pattern. The next step is choice. Identity is not assigned, it is chosen and reinforced. You can decide to be someone who values health, someone who is disciplined, someone who leads with courage. This decision isn't about pretending to be something you're not, it's about aligning your daily actions with the person you are capable of becoming. Start small. If you want to be someone who is organized, spend a few minutes each day tidying your workspace. Each action becomes a vote for the new identity. Over time, these votes accumulate until the old self has no authority left. This process requires patience and persistence. The old identity will resist because it feels familiar and safe. You might hear an inner voice saying, "That's not who you are," or "People will think you've changed." But change is exactly the point. Growth always involves discomfort because you are stepping out of the boundaries of what you once believed was possible. Ultimately, an identity shift is the key that unlocks every other transformation. New habits, new relationships, and new achievements all flow from the question, who am I becoming? When you consciously choose that answer and back it with daily action, you dismantle the old self and make room for the person who can rise to meet the life you truly want. The comfort zone is one of the most deceptive places a person can live. It feels warm, safe, and familiar, almost like a favorite chair that molds to your body. But that same comfort quietly keeps you locked into routines and limits that prevent growth. The very things that make it appealing, the predictability, the absence of risk, are the same things that slowly erode potential. Staying within that zone creates the illusion of stability while secretly draining ambition and dulling the spark of possibility. Think of how most people start their day. They wake at the same time, follow the same patterns, and think the same thoughts they had yesterday. This repetition offers a sense of security, but it also ensures that tomorrow will look exactly like today. Without realizing it, the comfort zone becomes a loop, a self-reinforcing cycle that resists change. Every time you choose the familiar over the unknown, you reinforce the identity of who you were, not who you could become. Growth requires tension. It requires stepping into spaces where you don't yet feel ready, where uncertainty lives. Imagine a muscle that never stretches or lifts a heavier weight. It remains weak. Your mind and spirit operate in the same way. If you only engage with what you already know, you rob yourself of the very experiences that create resilience and strength. Progress never arrives wrapped in ease. It comes disguised as challenge, as risk, as discomfort. Fear often guards the door to that larger life. The fear of failure, of embarrassment, of not being good enough. These emotions whisper that staying put is safer. But safety is an illusion. While you remain in place, the world moves forward. Opportunities evolve. Skills that are comfortable today become outdated tomorrow. What feels like stability is really stagnation, and stagnation is a slow decline. Stepping beyond the comfort zone does not mean recklessness. It means conscious expansion. It might be as simple as starting a conversation with someone new, learning a skill that intimidates you, or taking on a project that stretches your current abilities. Each small step chips away at the mental walls built by habit and fear. Each moment of discomfort teaches your mind that you are capable of more than it believed. The first attempts will rarely be perfect. You will stumble, perhaps even fail. But those experiences are not setbacks. They are the forge of transformation. Failure is feedback. It sharpens awareness, strengthens resolve, and builds the confidence that only action can create. The more you practice stepping out, the more natural it becomes, until growth itself feels like home. Consider anyone who has achieved mastery in any field. None of them remained in the place where they started. They confronted uncertainty, embraced the unfamiliar, and accepted the temporary discomfort of learning. Their courage to leave the comfort zone allowed them to discover talents, insights, and opportunities that would have remained hidden had they stayed where it was easy. Your comfort zone will always invite you back, promising calm and predictability. But if you want to rise, if you want a life richer than the one you live today, you must decline that invitation. The unknown may feel risky, but it is the only path to expansion. Growth begins the moment you step beyond the line of what feels safe and trust that you can handle whatever waits on the other side. The power of renewal is the turning point where true transformation begins. It is the recognition that every stage of life requires a different version of you, a fresh way of thinking, and a willingness to evolve beyond who you once were. Renewal is not merely a change of scenery or a new set of goals. It is an internal revolution. It is the deliberate act of clearing out the clutter of outdated beliefs and tired routines so that new possibilities can take root. Many people misunderstand change as something that happens outside of them, a new job, a different city, a shift in circumstances. But without renewal of the mind, those external changes will eventually feel the same, because the person experiencing them has not truly changed. The mind is the command center of every action and decision. If it remains tied to old patterns, life will continue to repeat those patterns no matter how much the environment shifts. Renewal begins with questioning your own thinking, challenging the stories you tell yourself about what is possible, and daring to adopt a perspective that matches the life you truly desire. This process is rarely comfortable. It feels unsettling to release familiar ways of thinking, even when those habits no longer serve you. There is a strange security in the known, even if the known is keeping you stuck. Renewal demands that you walk into uncertainty and trust that a stronger, wiser version of yourself will emerge. It is like stepping into a river. The water is cold, the current is unpredictable, but staying on the shore means remaining stagnant. Growth only happens when you are willing to be carried forward. Renewal also requires honesty. You must be willing to look at your own limitations without excuse. Ask yourself which habits are draining your potential, which beliefs belong to a past that no longer fits, and which fears you have allowed to dictate your choices. This kind of self-inquiry is not about self-criticism, it is about self-awareness. Once you see the patterns that keep you anchored, you can begin to replace them with thoughts and behaviors that lift you higher. Another key to renewal is consistency. A single burst of inspiration is not enough. Just as a garden must be tended daily to grow, the mind must be fed daily with ideas, practices, and disciplines that reinforce the new direction. Reading uplifting material, surrounding yourself with people who challenge you to rise, and setting small, deliberate goals create the foundation for lasting change. Each consistent step, no matter how small, reinforces the truth that you are not bound by who you used to be. It is important to understand that renewal is a continuous journey. Life will present new stages, each requiring another level of growth and another release of the old. What serves you today may become an obstacle tomorrow. Embrace this reality, and you will find freedom in the process. Renewal is not about rejecting your past, but about integrating the lessons it taught you and then moving forward unencumbered. Ultimately, the power of renewal lies in the choice to let go of what no longer aligns with your highest vision. It is a declaration that your future is not dictated by yesterday's limitations. By renewing your mind and spirit, you invite fresh opportunities, deeper wisdom, and a life that reflects your true potential. Breaking limiting patterns is the turning point between living on repeat and stepping into a life of growth. Most people underestimate how powerful their daily routines and thought loops are. Every small action, what time you wake up, how you react to stress, the words you say to yourself, adds up to a pattern. These patterns are like invisible rails guiding a train. As long as you stay on the same tracks, you will keep arriving at the same destinations. It is comforting because you know what to expect, but that comfort is exactly what keeps you from real progress. Imagine someone who wants better health but always ends the day with junk food because that's just how I relax. That simple ritual is a pattern. Or consider the professional who dreams of starting a business yet checks social media every evening instead of learning new skills. That is a pattern too. The outcome is predictable because the behavior is consistent. The mind becomes wired to repeat these choices, making them feel natural even when they are destructive. Breaking this cycle starts with awareness. You must first see the pattern before you can change it. Ask yourself, what habits keep giving me the same results I no longer want? Where am I running on autopilot instead of making conscious decisions? Once you identify these loops, the next step is intentional disruption. This is not about making a single dramatic change for a few days and then sliding back. It is about consistent, deliberate interruptions. If you always reach for your phone first thing in the morning, replace that action with 5 minutes of quiet breathing or reading something inspiring. If you constantly doubt your ability, replace the inner dialogue with affirmations of capability and a small action that proves you are capable. Each interruption is like pulling a brick out of an old wall. Over time, the structure of the pattern weakens until it no longer holds you. This process requires courage because patterns are tied to identity. You may feel as though you are betraying a part of yourself. Friends or family might question why you are changing, but remember that these patterns were built to support a version of you that no longer matches your vision. Growth is not about pleasing others or clinging to yesterday's definition of self. It is about creating a life that reflects who you are becoming. The brain itself supports this transformation. Neuroplasticity, the ability of your mind to rewire, means every new thought and action creates new pathways. At first, these new routes feel awkward, like walking through an overgrown trail, but each repetition clears the way, making the new behavior easier and the old habit weaker. Consistency turns a choice into a natural part of your character. Breaking limiting patterns is not merely about stopping bad habits, it is about designing better ones. Replace avoidance with action. Replace excuses with planning. Replace passive entertainment with learning or creating. Focus on small, sustainable shifts rather than perfection. Over weeks and months, these choices reshape not only your behavior, but your identity. You begin to see yourself as disciplined, capable, and worthy of bigger goals. The old life starts to feel foreign because you have built a new normal. The rewards of this effort are profound. When you break the loops that hold you, possibilities expand. Goals that once seemed distant become attainable because your daily life finally aligns with your ambitions. You no longer wake up dreading sameness. You wake up curious about what you will create next. That is the essence of breaking limiting patterns. It frees you from the prison of predictability and opens the door to continuous growth and unexpected opportunity. Releasing the old self requires courage because it asks you to step into the unknown. The familiar, even when it's uncomfortable, offers a strange kind of safety. You know its patterns, you know the rhythm of its days, you understand its excuses and its limits. Letting go means leaving behind not only habits and routines, but also the identity you've carried for years. It means saying goodbye to a version of yourself that may have protected you, even if that protection kept you small. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's the decision to move forward despite it. When you consider shedding the old you, fear will whisper that you might fail, that you might lose relationships, that you might not recognize yourself. These whispers are powerful because they speak to a deep human desire for certainty, yet certainty and growth rarely travel together. Progress demands risk. To release the old self, you must accept that uncertainty is the doorway to transformation. This courage is both mental and emotional. It begins with an honest look at who you have been and what you have allowed. Maybe it's the job you stayed in because it felt safe. Maybe it's the circle of friends who reinforce habits you know you've outgrown. Maybe it's the self-talk that tells you it's too late or too hard. Facing these truths can be uncomfortable. It might even hurt, but courage invites you to sit with that discomfort long enough to recognize it as a signal that change is necessary. Letting go is not about rejecting everything from your past. It's about discerning what no longer serves the life you want to create. Courage helps you separate the valuable lessons from the limiting labels. You may keep the wisdom of past experiences while discarding the identity that keeps you tied to old patterns. This selective release is an act of empowerment. You are not erasing your history, you are reclaiming your future. Often, the first step is a quiet decision, an internal commitment to change before any external action. Courage speaks in that private moment when you say, "I will not be defined by who I was yesterday." From there, small but deliberate actions give your decision strength. Each choice to wake earlier, learn a new skill, or replace a negative thought with a constructive one reinforces the courage to keep shedding the old layers. Relationships may shift as you grow. Some people will celebrate your transformation, others may resist it because it challenges their own comfort zones. Courage helps you navigate these dynamics without resentment. You can appreciate the role people played in your life while still moving toward a future that calls for different influences and environments. Releasing the old self is rarely a single event. It's a process of continual renewal. Courage must be practiced daily. Each morning offers a chance to choose the new over the familiar, the expansive over the safe. Over time, these repeated acts of bravery rewire your mindset. What once felt terrifying becomes natural. The fear that once kept you anchored loses its grip. In choosing courage, you become an active participant in your own evolution. You stop waiting for permission to change. You stop bargaining with your limitations. You step into a larger vision of yourself, knowing that every risk you take in shedding the old identity brings you closer to the life you are meant to live. Mindset is the silent architect of every achievement and the hidden saboteur of every failure. Long before a goal is reached, the outcome is already taking shape in thought. If your mind is locked in the patterns of the past, no amount of effort can create lasting change. That is why a complete overhaul of your thinking is essential if you wish to rise above the old you. It isn't just about positive affirmations or surface-level optimism. It's about reshaping the entire framework through which you see yourself and the world. The thoughts you allow to dominate your attention become the blueprint for your behavior. Old habits of mind, worry, self-doubt, fear of judgment, operate like invisible chains. You may try to take bold action, but those thoughts quietly pull you back toward the familiar. To break free, you must first notice these patterns. Observe the internal dialogue that runs in the background. Are you telling yourself that you can't change, that success is for someone else, that past mistakes define your limits? These are not harmless musings. They are commands your subconscious follows without question. Reprogramming begins with awareness. When you catch a limiting thought, challenge it. Ask whether it is based on fact or old conditioning. Often you'll discover it's nothing more than a story you've repeated until it felt real. Replace that story with one that supports growth. This isn't pretending everything is perfect. It's choosing a perspective that opens doors instead of closing them. For example, instead of thinking, "I always fail at new ventures," reframe it as, "Every attempt teaches me the skills to succeed next time." That small shift changes how you feel, and, in turn, how you act. But a new mindset is more than affirmations. It requires feeding your mind with ideas and experiences that stretch your understanding of what's possible. Read widely, seek mentors, expose yourself to environments where excellence is normal. The people you spend time with and the information you consume become the soil in which your new thoughts grow. Surround yourself with those who challenge complacency and encourage progress. Gradually, your brain rewires itself to expect growth and opportunity. Action is the final key to solidifying this transformation. Thoughts alone are seeds. Action is the sunlight and water that make them take root. Each time you act on a belief in your potential, you reinforce the new mental pattern. Take small, deliberate steps toward the future you envision, even when fear whispers that you are not ready. Consistency matters more than speed. Every courageous decision is a message to your subconscious. This is who I am now. Changing your mindset is not a one-day task. old beliefs will resurface. When they do, treat them as echoes of the past rather than commands for the present. With persistence, the new narrative grows stronger, and the old one loses its grip. Over time, your external reality begins to mirror your internal shift. Opportunities appear where none existed, relationships improve, and challenges become invitations to expand. The transformation of your mind is the foundation for every other change you desire. When you think differently, you feel differently. When you feel differently, you act differently. And when you act differently, the world responds in kind. By consciously reshaping your mindset, you are not just adjusting thoughts, you are rewriting the story of who you are and who you can become. Action is the bridge between who you are and who you aim to become. It is easy to picture a better version of yourself, to imagine the success you want, and to talk about big goals. But nothing changes until you begin to act in ways that match that vision. Your identity is not a fixed label, it is a pattern of behaviors repeated over time. Each choice, each small step, is like a vote for the person you decide to be. When you consistently take actions that align with your aspirations, you slowly rewrite the story you tell yourself about who you are. Many people wait for motivation to arrive before they act, believing that a sudden burst of inspiration will push them forward. But motivation follows action, not the other way around. When you take the first step, even a small one, you prove to yourself that change is possible. That proof sparks confidence, and confidence fuels the next action. This cycle creates momentum. Over time, the actions you repeat shape not only your habits, but your very sense of identity. You stop saying, "I want to be someone who exercises," and you start believing, "I am someone who takes care of my health." That subtle shift is where transformation truly begins. The old version of you might cling to familiar routines, even those that keep you stuck, because they are comfortable and predictable. But every moment you choose action that supports growth, you loosen the grip of the past. For example, if you want to be financially responsible, each decision to save or invest instead of spending impulsively reinforces the belief that you are disciplined with money. If you want to be a writer, each day you sit down to write, even if the words aren't perfect, strengthens the identity of a creator. These actions do more than produce results. They sculpt the character of the person you are becoming. Consistency is more powerful than intensity. One dramatic gesture may feel exciting, but steady, repeated effort builds lasting change. Just as a river shapes a canyon through constant flow, your daily actions carve the contours of your new self. The key is to start with achievable steps and build on them. Small victories compound, and over time they become undeniable evidence that you are no longer the same person. Each time you act, you cast a vote for the future you, and the majority of those votes eventually decides the outcome. It is normal to encounter resistance. The mind often whispers that you are not ready, that you might fail, that it's safer to wait. But waiting only reinforces the identity of someone who hesitates. Taking action, even when fear is present, rewires that pattern. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is movement despite it. Each courageous act strengthens the belief that you are capable of more than the old you imagined. Your identity is the sum of the actions you practice every day. If you desire transformation, start where you are with what you can do now. The person you want to become is not somewhere in the distant future. It is created in each decision you make today. By aligning your actions with your highest vision, you do more than change your circumstances. You become the embodiment of the life you seek. Continuous evolution is the quiet force behind every lasting success. Many people believe growth is a single breakthrough moment, a dramatic event that changes everything overnight. But real transformation is rarely sudden. It is a steady, lifelong process of learning, unlearning, and adapting. The person you are today is not the final version of you. If you hold on to the idea that you can reach a point where improvement stops, you will eventually stall. Life moves forward, markets shift, technology advances, relationships evolve, and the world never stands still. To stay relevant, fulfilled, and capable, you must be willing to evolve with it. Consider how nature operates. A river never flows in the same pattern twice. The water you see one moment is replaced the next. Trees add new rings every year. Seasons change without asking permission. This constant movement is not chaos, it is life's natural rhythm. Human growth follows the same principle. The skills and beliefs that served you 5 years ago may be outdated today. What made you effective in the past can become a limitation if you cling to it. Continuous evolution means refusing to rest on yesterday's achievements and choosing to expand your capacity again and again. This process demands awareness. You must regularly examine your habits, thoughts, and goals. Ask yourself, are these choices still aligned with where I want to go, or are they simply comfortable because they are familiar? Comfort is tempting because it feels safe, but it is the enemy of progress. Evolution often feels uncomfortable. It requires you to question old assumptions and to risk failure as you try new approaches. But the discomfort of growth is far less painful than the regret of staying the same. Another key element of ongoing evolution is curiosity. Curiosity keeps the mind alive and open to possibilities. When you remain curious, you invite fresh ideas and perspectives. You read new books, listen to different voices, and challenge your own conclusions. This mental flexibility allows you to spot opportunities others overlook. It also protects you from becoming rigid, which can happen when you believe you already know enough. The moment you stop being curious is the moment you begin to decline, because the world will continue to change, whether you learn or not. Action is the bridge between intention and transformation. It is not enough to gather knowledge or dream of growth. Continuous evolution requires action, repeated over time. Small daily improvements, reading a chapter, practicing a skill, reflecting on a decision, compound into significant change. Even setbacks become valuable when you treat them as lessons instead of failures. Each action, each adjustment, each insight layers upon the last, building a stronger and more capable version of you. Perhaps the most liberating truth about continuous evolution is that it has no finish line. You are never done becoming. This isn't a burden, it is freedom. It means there is always more potential to unlock, more strength to develop, more wisdom to gain. When you embrace this mindset, you stop fearing change and start seeking it. You realize that every stage of life offers a chance to grow in character, skill, and understanding. By choosing continuous evolution, you give yourself the power to adapt to whatever the future holds. You remain vibrant, resilient, and prepared for new challenges. Most importantly, you honor the simple fact that growth is the essence of living. The old you is only the foundation. The evolving you is limitless.